Over to James.
Thanks. The observant amongst you will notice that this is in fact an anechoic chamber rather than an echo chamber. But an echo chamber is very boring, it's just flat concrete walls. This also kind of underlines that Bing's image search is very poor. While I've been sort of planning this talk on echo chambers and filter bubbles and whatnot, I've tried to avoid certain habits that I've had in the past around using Google all the time and using Facebook and, not blogging. Anyway, this is me. I work with Big Brand Ideas, who are an agency in Macclesfield. I work with Ainsworth and Parkinson, who are an agency in Preston. I run my own consultant business as well, and I sort of help with resource and talent through another little bit. So I'm a busy boy. I used to blog a bit with the SEO Cockstars, if anyone ever read that, but I don't have the time anymore. In terms of what I'm talking about, if you sort of watch any news about politics, and I tend to because I'm quite middle-aged and dull and increasingly fat, and sport's not really my thing. So I watch a lot of talk on politics, and the kind of themes that you get at the moment are that opinions are very, very much extreme and defined by what they call the echo chamber. So I'm going to talk a bit about that. And we'll talk a bit about how social media and search have algorithms which kind of just show you what you want to see and agree with you all the time so you feel nice and comfy on the internet. So, start off, this is the past, or this was Saturday at my house. And in the past, we kind of had very, very limited choice about what we saw. When I was a kid, I remember Channel 4 being invented, and that was amazing because it increased the amount of media I could consume by like literally a third. Although I think it launched in '85. Michael, remember? Whenever Channel 4 launched, early '80s, my mum wouldn't let us watch it for years because it was probably a bit risque. And I think she didn't understand the concept of the watershed, and that you only saw boobs after 9 o'clock at night. So I think she was worried that it would happen at 3, 4 in the afternoon when we got home from school. No, that's, like I say, that's actually literally my mum's house now. Well, not literally, that's figuratively my mum's house now. She's still very, very focused on a small number of opportunities for entertainment and information. When you had this in the past and you were kind of force-fed a limited choice of things, it meant everything was quite vanilla in a way. You had to appeal to a lot of people, and you had to cater to large audiences. This is squeaky as hell.
Stand still.
I can't stand still. Right, this is what it's like now. We have loads and loads of things to choose from, and we kind of insulate ourselves from each other and just get into our own world. Like you. What are you on?
Twitter.
Are you Twitter? I didn't think anyone still used it.
It's my job.
Right. How rude. Yeah, so now we look at Twitter and we look at Facebook, and there's probably people Snapchatting and putting like ears on me and stuff like that. Maybe you could make me thinner, like on the SAScon website. Yeah, look nice. Anyway, now we have like tons and tons of information. We've got Facebook, we've got blogs. Has anyone here ever sort of tried to be, a TV journalist? Nope. Well, it's good money, isn't it? But in the past, if you wanted to be a journalist, you had to go to university, and then you had to do a kind of tutelage at a local paper, and then you had to work your way up through the ranks. And it was really, really tough to get yourself on the TV and get your opinion heard. Does anyone here do YouTube? No. Oh, well, now you see you can do whatever you want on YouTube. You can create your own channel and you can disseminate your largely unpleasant views to the whole world. There's no kind of constraints on people's ability to communicate. So we have tons and tons of things. Three big stories of last year and this year. And these were all influenced to a lesser or greater extent by what we'd call social media echo chambers. And what was interesting about all of them was that these were things that everyone got wrong in the mainstream media. So we had the EU referendum and everyone knew that the UK were going to remain. Who voted to remain? Yeah. Who voted to leave? One. And probably others, because everyone was a bit embarrassed about voting to leave. Yeah, it was kind of, what? That's annoying. Ron G. That was fine, by the way. This is the wrong aspect ratio. I like widescreen. Ron. Good. This is going to happen again and again. Has anyone been on the internet for a while? Yeah? Do you remember the rules of the internet? No? Well, specifically Rule 34 of the internet. Rule 34 is, if it exists, there is porn of it. No exceptions. And I sort of mentioned earlier on that I'd kind of, as part of my bid to avoid just this being force-fed personalised information and letting algorithms make decisions for me, I thought I'll move away from Google, I'll use Bing search. Right? And Bing search is essentially Rule 34. You can search for anything, and you scroll three or four mouse clicks down, and there is porn of it. There's a couple of images in here where I've had to crop them quite carefully. That is a leg. Porn of it. Anyway, the point was, we were wrong about UK remaining, largely because of Sexy Mavis, and largely driven by kind of right-wing blogs that Mavis looked at and got into. Things like Britain First, things like Guido Fawkes. Westminster kind of come on the scene a bit more recently, but all very, very pro leaving the EU. All of the mainstream media, where my mum gets her news and where most of us sort of exist less and less these days, very pro-EU. The echo chamber of social media promoted this like very, very much a leave agenda. There was obviously quite a big remain agenda on social media as well. And one of the reasons why the mainstream media, which tends to bias a little bit towards the left of politics, was so convinced we were going to remain was because of the echo chamber that they were in. President Clito. I'm going to stop using big text. Yeah, everyone knew Clinton was going to win the election last year because it was obvious. You know, she was a proper politician. She was a woman. She actually knew probably what she was doing. And as a result, everyone was Ron G. and you know, it's easy to go, yeah, it was all hicks and rednecks who voted for her. But online, you had the 4chan poll, you had Breitbart, you had Zero Hedge, which all have massive audiences, a bit bigger than you'd think. So Breitbart, I think, has a similar size readership to BuzzFeed, and it's like proper right-wing. 4chan, I think it's in the top 100 sites globally by traffic. And Zero Hedge, I don't know if anyone reads that, it's a Russian propaganda site that masquerades as like financial news. Anyway, a conservative landslide. This is a bit more recent. And again, you know, we were wrong. Now, the weird thing about this one is that the first two, they were very, very much defined by right-wing echo chambers, kind of carrying a narrative to an audience. Whereas this one, if you went on to the likes of, you know, what, The Canary, Momentum's website, Squawk any of the kind of big left wing, they were convinced to the point of obsession that Mr. Corbyn would be Prime Minister Corbyn. And the sort of mainstream media narrative, looking at polls and things, was that the Tories would romp it, they wipe out Labour. But in fact, you know, in the same way as we had that comment earlier about the US beating England 1-all at the 2010 World Cup, whatever it was, you know, Corbyn and Labour won by having fewer seats. And it was driven by this kind of underground social media-y type movement. And there's three factors which kind of touched on. Fake news, there's two kinds of fake news. Ooh, water. There's two kinds of fake news. There's the genuinely fake news, the sort of thing that you get on the St Helens Telegraph and the Southend Advertiser. Ooh. Where it's completely made up and it's not true at all. Breitbart is a good example. And then you get what used to be called yellow journalism, which I quite like the sound of, and I dug into it a bit. But it's things which is vague sources that appears to be convincing. It's promoted through mainstream media. You see it a lot in the tabloids. Very, very opinionated and, well, you know, it might touch on a fact or two, but it's essentially fake news rather than false news. Things like that. Apparently. Do you know, I was a bit last minute when I was doing that, this slide. That was the time when I was putting it together. It's probably why the typeface is too big. 1 o'clock in the morning. Should have better things to do. The filter bubble is you know, it's what we surround ourselves with. It's the opinions of the people who are like us that sit around us. Intellectual isolation. I like that. I'm not entirely comfortable with algorithms making decisions for me about what I'm exposed to. When you go on Facebook, you only see things that kind of agree with you, which is deliberate. Keeps you on there more often. You don't want to be angry too much with your friends, so you only get surfaced information which is appealing to you. Stuff I want to hear, and everything else is just ignored. And then we kind of finally get onto what we're supposed to be talking about, which is this, what? Thanks. I was going, can you sit further back? You're the only person in the audience I can see. Apart from Mike's shiny head at the back. All of these fake news and filter bubbles, they kind of contribute to this echo chamber where we only get one opinion which agrees with us all the time, and then we get more and more of that, and it kind of reinforces and tells us again and again the same sort of thing, and ultimately it's just, I agree with myself, and I know that I'm right because everyone I know has the same opinion as me. And I think to a greater or lesser extent, it's all driven by these kind of closed groups on Facebook where we don't necessarily expose ourselves to much more than we necessarily need to. Is anyone a member of any closed groups? Yeah? What do you talk about? Yeah? Rule 2 of the internet. You don't talk about what happens. They're all secrets, but the thing about closed groups, and any group, you know, in all honesty, is that it tends to be one opinion, and you tend to get an agenda which is driven by the people who post the most. I joined a couple of closed groups. One was JC4PM. Anyone a member of that? There's crazy stuff in there. I also joined one, not under my own name, which was a kind of organising group for English Democrats, British infidels, bollocks. Not pleasant places, but very, very extreme views. You know, we talked earlier on about how in the past things were quite vanilla because they had to appeal to a massive audience. With these closed groups and kind of echo chamber social media, you do end up with extreme viewpoints coming to the fore because you can talk to a very, very narrow audience. audience of 5 or 6 people who can then drive into a wider groups. This is a quote from Cass Sunstein, which is like one of the best names I've ever heard. There's 2 pictures of him on the internet. I'm not even sure if that's him, to be honest. I think it is. The other picture was him dressed as a cowboy, wearing snakeskin cowboy boots. And at 1:30 in the morning, I was putting this, I really want some snakeskin cowboy boots. And I've bought some. I'm going to come from America. Anyway, he's got a quote here. You can all read. Anyone need help reading it? What he was saying was that you get a general viewpoint and it becomes more extreme over time, just because of the reinforcement that happens in these groups. And I go on the internet a bit, and I kind of compete with my wife to get more likes on things that we post. And on the rare occasions where, I get more likes, it's a big win for me. It makes me extremely happy. She posts pictures of our kids, and people like that. Her friends are all quite generous and pleasant. I post moans about how my train smells of poo and some enormously obese person encroaching on me. And no one likes that. But you have 2 kinds of online discussions. Well, 3, technically. You've got the echo chamber where everyone agrees, and then you've got big old fights where loads of people comment and contribute, and you have differences of opinion. And in the middle, you've got a kind of polite conversation. Those are quite dull. That's usually where I end up online, and no one likes my stuff. Over the other side, you've got the kind of things that Mike posts about football. And then at the far end, you've got the echo chambers where everyone agrees, everyone likes it, and it's all reinforcement, and you feel good about yourself because everyone likes what you say. This is kind of a starting point. Does anyone know anything about the art of persuasion? There's some good books on it. You should read them. I can't remember the titles. I think it's called The Art of Persuasion. Anyway, the point is that when you've got some kind of common ground between 2 people, you have something that you can agree on. But when you have like extreme views, you end up with this kind of mentality of ideological impurity. And if anyone kind of follows things like Momentum's takeover of the Labour Party, the idea of ideological impurity and the opinion of 1 or 2 people driving a wider agenda becomes really important. People get forced out. Any contrary opinions are pushed to the side and ignored and overruled. You can only have one viewpoint within an echo chamber. And it leads to this shit. It's the reason why cocks like that exist and ruin concerts is because they think that everyone agrees with them, because everyone that they know is involved in exactly the same conversations as they are. And they say, yeah, it's right, these fucking wankers, they're doing whatever they're doing, they're having some fun, no one should be allowed to have any fun. We'll blow up a concert. And it's driven by this lack of diversity in what they're hearing. An echo chamber. This is a normal situation, stuff that we can agree on. There's what you think, that he's a rambling idiot, and there's what I think, that I am a rather erudite and personable young man. And in between, there's probably certain things we can agree on. And within a conversation, you kind of have this initial point of, we can agree on that because that's a shared opinion. If I start out talking to you about what we have in common, I can generally persuade you about the other things that you think that maybe I can change your mind about, and maybe I can educate you a bit. And one of the challenges that we have, where we become too focused on like these echo chambers and things, is that we don't have any diversity of opinion in what we expose ourselves to. That is called a library. We used to have them, along with TV. The things on the shelves, by the way, are books, and that's a person reading. These are not things that you see much these days. When you kind of avoid social media and you go back to watching TV rather than just binge watching Netflix and only exposing yourselves to the things that you want, and you expose yourself to all of these alternate and contrasting ideas, it becomes much more balanced and generally better. And I think I was way quicker than I expected. But I've heard that before.
Thank you, James. Round of applause for James. Has anyone got any questions for James? Mike? No questions for James? No. Oh, there we go.
So we know that these things are happening. Yes,
Yep.
we know these things are happening. So how do we burst out of the echo chambers? Or what do we do apart from go to the library, which you know that nobody's going to do?
No, I know no one is going to go to the library. I think that it's a symptom of where we are and having everything driven by algorithms. And there's no easy answer. You could go to Facebook and say, make things more diverse. And to be fair, Facebook are trying to expand the amount of content that people see. But when you have Google personalising your searches, which is a positive thing in a way, because it shows you things which are more likely to appeal to you, and advertisers become much more focused on providing you with products that are targeted to your interests and what you're in market for. The only way that you can sort of promote any level of diversity is through a personal choice to move away from using tools which simplify things for you. Now, I have, I get information through my watch. I get information through Facebook. I have personalised news feeds. I choose what I want to see. And like most people, I've got Netflix and I'll binge watch TV series. The only way that you can sort of push people out of echo chambers is by closing them. And you can't really, in the modern world, close people off from opinions. Like I say, Facebook are making an effort, but I don't think it'll make any change. And I think that what we have is this sort of fragmentation of opinion, and you will see more and more extremism, and you will see fewer opinions being publicly held. And it's unfortunately a fairly dystopic future. That's all right.
So with the where you're saying there's echo chambers in social media and stuff, I personally think a lot of people are still choosing the path that they go down in the way they follow people and they like certain pages, etc. Also, people have got friends who have different opinions. Yes. And because of that, they're also being exposed to other things that they're sharing, etc. So I don't think it's quite as narrow as kind of everyone thinks. It's more kind of dependent on who you are kind of interacting with. Yeah. So how many friends do you have on the Facebook? Well, I made a new account a while ago just to get rid of all the toxic people out. The people whose opinions you disagree with. Well, no, the people so I've moved schools 3 times, and and so I've got people who I was just completely out of touch with, who I think Facebook actually reduced the posts of people who you haven't interacted with. I think I found that because I had that many people on my friends list, I just wasn't seeing what they were doing. Well, exactly. So Facebook filters what you see based on your interests. Exactly. But it's I'm very open-minded with stuff I'll delve into politics, I'll delve into sports, I'll delve into most things, travel, everything. So anything where they try and direct me down one path, it may be different for me because I don't really see that, because I see a bit of everything. Yeah, but I think there's 2 parts to it. You've got a kind of plurality of topics that you're looking at. So which football team is Liverpool. It for you? Liverpool. I'm allowed them from there. Sorry? I'm allowed them from there. That's fine. Some people like that sort of thing. Next year. It's your year. Every year. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you look at football, but the majority of the opinions that you see will be focused on Liverpool, and the majority of the posts that you saw probably running up to who was in charge before Klopp? Who was it? Roy or was it Rodgers? Yeah. So towards the end of his tenure, I suspect he saw a lot of stuff that was very negative about Rodgers. And where do you tend to sort of go bars wise? I'm not trying to arrange them.
Fancy going for a pint?
Trying to avoid drinking, at least for the afternoon. No, but you have a plurality of topics that you look at, but in terms of your exposure to opinions within that, it does get narrowed down by Facebook so that you don't see stuff that you're not interested in.
I see what you mean. I mean, for example, like, say, you're saying to like kind of expose yourself to a bit more than just what you're seeing in this kind of the echo chamber. If I, was scrolling through Facebook and, something for Everton Football Club or Man United Football Club showed up on my news feed, I'd probably, depending on what it is, if it's quite important news, I'd probably either have a little look at it or I'd just completely ignore it just for the fact that it's Man United, it's Everton, and it is genuinely just not in my life.
Yeah.
And that's not by being kind of forced to be in that.
But I think you'll see less and less of that over time.
Yeah.
So every time you scroll past something without interacting, Facebook rather creepily kind of collect that data and they then feed that back into how they surface stuff in the future. So they go, he likes football, we'll show him loads of football stuff because he commented on some post. And they'll go, actually no, he only likes Liverpool. So then they'll probably fire in some stuff which is, about Liverpool as a town in terms of the advertising that you see and the other stuff you get exposed to. But the filter bubbles around football and things, I don't think they're as important because that's a natural tribalism that we have. And it's certainly not like it was when, Mike used to go to the matches back in the 50s. And, you'd have a couple of pints, go to the game, and then, have a big fight afterwards. That sort of stuff doesn't happen as much as it did, but it is still very, very tribal, and rightly so, because you can't support two teams. There's no sort of huge danger in that. The danger comes in more political opinions, I think, where people are only exposing themselves to one thing. You said you dabble in politics, on Facebook, what people are sharing.
I'm not an avid kind of like, I just think they'll just talk a load of crap, to be honest. But
yeah.
So I don't really believe one person and I don't believe one party. I just kind of, I'm more of kind of a, I'll read up on it at the time and see what's going on. I'm not,
in terms of
I don't get influenced
what's fed to you on your feed, what sort of thing is it? Is it kind of centrist or?
I don't really get politics on my feed, to be honest.
Because you don't interact with it.
Because I don't interact, because I've got my own opinion on it. I'll go on Google and I'll do the research and stuff.
Yeah.
During the time, but around that, I don't really read any stories on it and stuff because it just doesn't really interest me that much. And if it did at the time, I'd go and myself and go online and read into that. I think what the perfect kind of like platform that is doing exactly what you're saying is Instagram. And if you look on the Discover tab, do you have Instagram?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look on the Discover tab, I don't know how they do it because obviously there's no tags on images and stuff, but it categorizes images to match what you like and what you prefer. So I'm like, on Instagram, I basically just look at memes constantly. So on my Discover page, it's literally just memes. So it's kind of hiding other stuff. So like, any sports stuff and etc. Yeah. But I agree with you on that one. With Instagram, but on Facebook and stuff, I can definitely see like there's still a bit of your own opinion and stuff.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, my little boy shares my Spotify account, or he hijacks it. So all I tend to get in my Discover is Celine Dion. Anyway,
End of that point?
I think that's the end of that point.
Just to chime in a touch, I think obviously we've been talking a lot about social media. I think personally, for me, I've found the conversations around Brexit and the US election and the UK election even more worrying in the mainstream media, where I think that people have got that filter bubble depending on what newspaper they read. So my mother-in-law, by all accounts, if you looked at her life, should be a Labour hardcore voter if you just profiled her, but because she reads the Daily Mail and has read the Daily Mail for 20 years, it's all about immigration to her, and she would absolutely side that, because she's in that bubble where she's fed lies effectively on a daily basis, and I don't think that. I think the worrying thing is online and offline. There's very few places you get that unfiltered, non-biased view. I don't really see where you get that anymore. So it does take an individual, as you suggested, who's going to go and do their own research. Unfortunately, you're in the minority there, where someone will tend to fall into a channel and will plough that channel and will end up in the extremist world, because the information that they fed just makes the views even more extreme.